Selected one, take a moment and pay attention. A message is being sent straight to your spirit, which is why heaven has quieted the noise around you. You are not like the others, and you were never meant to fade into the backdrop of this world. You stand out, and now you're on the edge of a decision that will reveal what has been waiting for you all along. For too long, you've held your hesitation like a stone in your chest. You've measured and remeasured, waiting for the perfect moment. But there is no perfect moment. The Spirit whispers, your season of delay is ending. Your new outfit is boldness. You don't step forward because you know for sure. You step because the ground appears under your foot only after you move. That stirring you feel right now is not a coincidence. It's wonderful. It's a summons. Even Elon Musk, a man who built rockets before he knew if they would fly, embodies this truth. Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, each began as a leap into emptiness, an act of boldness before proof. His life is a blueprint for the chosen ones, to act first, to trust the unseen, to jump even during the flood season while others stand back at the river. And so this message, my message to the woman I love, is not just about confession. It's about destiny, about seeing that we, too, are called to step forward, to trust that our path will appear as we walk it. Because the fact you're hearing these words now is no accident. It's time. It seems that the waters are dangerous and uncrossable, but the order is straightforward. Take over. Your feet meet at that very instant. The dry earth and existing portions are visible. God deals with his chosen people in this way. He doesn't start by draining the river. In the midst of danger, he demonstrates himself. Consider another picture. You've been pushing against a closed door for years. The door won't open unless you have the courage to turn it, even when the ghost thrusts the key into your hand. It's faith in action, that wrist twist. The key is useless without it. A protracted season of waiting was once endured by a chosen one. It felt the same every day. Prayers did not appear to be answered. Possibilities passed like grains of sand. The quiet was ridiculed by many who said, maybe God forgot you. Nevertheless, their chosen one gained endurance throughout the silence. The breakthrough was like lightning slicing the night sky when it finally occurred. The years of waiting were repaid in one instant. You have that tale too, awaiting the unfolding. In the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 1, God says to be brave and powerful the instant you cease doubting. Don't be scared. Never give up, for the Lord, your God, will always be with you. This is more than simply an old-fashioned proverb, chosen one. It is a promise coupled with a command. You are instructed to stand without fear, and when you do, you may be sure that the presence will walk with you. Heaven is your mate. Don't undervalue this moment. Mercy's window is open, and windows don't remain open indefinitely. Ignoring the attraction can cause the quiet to return, but the sky will rain forth if you answer. For this reason, I'm pressing you. Come on ahead. Don't allow reason to override your faith. Faith is not rational. Belief is risky. Faith, however, is always rewarded. Your fate is not one of eking out a livelihood, leading a careful life, and weighing every possibility until your soul is crushed. No, you were designed for daring actions and heavenly jumps. You weren't picked to tread carefully. They choose you to roar. Now, take a moment to think. Which is the one thing you've been scared to do? Which river have you been staying away from? You have refused to turn the door. Listen to me. This is your affirmation. Your push is this. Take action. Heaven is on your side. Remember that your path is not only for you as you go. Lives are waiting, eyes are watching, and your bravery will determine your fate. Others will have the strength to rise when you do. Chains encircling whole families will break when you break free. Your obedience isn't personal. It is a generational issue. Here's what I'm asking of your selected one. Make your first obedience act easy. Demonstrate that you are paying attention. Take advantage of this moment. Type amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. Similar to this message, give it to someone else who is in need. To stay up to date with the prophetic fire stream, subscribe. Most importantly, Use the number 539 to indicate your covenant in the comment section below. It will be more than simply a number. It will be your proclamation of prophecy. Now I take a step. I don't wait. The waiting game is done after you've been selected. You've been practicing the same worries, pacing the same room, and going around the same mountain. You've been told by each delay that you may not be prepared. Maybe the promise never materialized. But suddenly there's a stirring of divine urgency. A sense of purpose-driven haste rather than fear. We're not hurrying you. We're releasing you. Consider a bird that has been kept in a cage for months. The door opens. The bird pauses, however. The cage started to seem familiar. Even in comfort, yet freedom requires bravery. Delay does this. It surrounds you with a phony sense of comfort. It makes you believe that just surviving is sufficient. However, you weren't made to survive. You were made to fly. Wisdom is the camouflage for delays. Hold off until you get more information. Hold off till you've had enough. Hold off until you feel secure. However, waiting eventually turns into disobedience. When God speaks, there is no assurance attached to the order. There is a need for trust, and your hesitancy becomes heavier the longer you wait. There is no neutrality in delay. It's a thief. Think about the picture of water that is confined behind a dam. The pressure increases as it waits longer. The water seems tranquil at first. Over time, however, it becomes restless and roars for release. Your spirit is feeling that right now. All of your life's thoughts, dreams, and words have been hammering away at the walls of delay. Pressure will break you if you don't unleash the floodgates. However, allowing it to flow will give you fresh strength. A chosen one once prayed for breakthrough every season for years. Every time they put off their calling, they replied, maybe next year. However, life does not wait forever. They realized years had been squandered in indecision when they looked back one day. Their souls were deeply scarred by regret. Don't tell their tale again. Allow your tale to be one in which you broke through delay before delay crushed you, and you acted when God said, move. Chapter 13, verse 12 of the book of Proverbs reveals that hope postponed makes the heart ill. A tree of life is the fulfillment of the Buddha's wish. You are aware of the illness of delay. Therefore, you have chosen one. You have experienced the bitterness of dreams delayed, the weight of hope pushed aside, and the pain of unanswered prayers. However, you're also aware of the fire that burns when a need is at last satisfied. On the other side of your obedience, life, thriving, and fruitfulness lies that promise. The myth that waiting will always benefit you is untrue. Yes, there are times to strike while the fire in heaven is blazing, but there are also times to wait. Hesitancy is a kind of disobedience when the spirit is awake. If the opponent can persuade you to keep delaying, he doesn't have to destroy you. Imagine yourself on the brink of combat as a warrior. You've polished your weapon. You have straps on your armor. You've finished your training, but you remain still. Type amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. Your determination will wane the longer you put it off. The adversary becomes more daring and moves forward gradually. Eventually, you have to charge. The person who thinks the longest does not win. Whoever has the courage to move wins. One more picture. Consider seeds that are left in a bag. Delays keep them buried even though they were intended for soil, growth, and harvest. Days become years, and the seeds are wilted and worthless when the bag is finally opened. You are not supposed to be kept in storage. You are intended to be planted, to produce fruit, and to proliferate. The sack is delay. The soil is destiny. What is the price of hesitating, you ask? Specifically, not in general terms. Because you told yourself not yet. What possibilities have you missed? While you remained still, which connections deteriorated? What commitments did you put off because you thought there might be a better opportunity? The Spirit is telling you that waiting will cost you too much. This is why there is a delay on the call. Not to frighten you, but to wake you up. The door of the cage is open. There is a tremor in the dam. The seed bag is waiting. Everything is prepared. Take a step. Don't hate modest beginnings. The whole strategy is not necessary to begin. You must take one brave step and one act of obedience. There is no instantaneous movement of the mountain. With the first blow, it starts to fall apart, and momentum takes control as soon as the crack shows. It's time to stop waiting. Selected 1. God has deemed you ready, not because you feel prepared. When he makes a declaration, it becomes true. Selected 1. Comfort is not the point here. It has to do with trust. This one exam is the culmination of all the promises that have hung over your life. Even if you do not have the proof, would you still believe? You're being called by the Lord to embrace a faith that is not based on calculations. A faith that might make one appear dumb. A faith that depends entirely on his word. Faith has always been expensive. Reputation is at stake. Security is a cost. Additionally, the appearance of control is lost. It does, however, open what no other object can. Playing things safe was not how the chosen ones of the past entered their destiny. When it seemed impossible, they took action. In the wilderness, Noah constructed an ark. Abraham didn't have a map when he left his house. Peter entered water that was too shallow to support him. The identical question that you are now facing tested each of them. Do you have enough faith in God to act without sight? I want you to carry this picture. Imagine traversing a rope bridge that is situated far above a canyon. The ropes wobble, the planks creak, but you go one step at a time. What you can't see is that the bridge is held together by invisible steel beams under the mist. Unshakable strength lies behind the unsteady feeling of faith. An additional image shows a sculptor cutting marble. Although each blow seems to be destructive, the inner figure is being exposed. Your faith is doing just that. Fear, uncertainty, and delay are being carved away by the strokes of risk and obedience until the beauty of your calling is revealed. Because they required confirmation before acting, a chosen one previously put things off for years. They said a prayer. Despite fasting, they consistently requested one more sign. The innovation never materialized. Obedience never followed, not because God was quiet. Even though their hands were shaking, they ventured to act at last. Type Amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. In one season, doors that have been closed for decades opened. God's time was never the test. Trust was at issue. In his epistle to the Corinthians, the apostle reminds us of chapter 5, verse 7 of the second book. We don't live by sight. We live by faith. Len, selected 1. Faith isn't acting like the storm has passed. Having faith is facing the storm with the knowledge that the one who controls the winds will be by your side. Blindness is not faith. It is a vision that sees beyond the obvious. Heaven is now searching people's hearts for individuals who have the courage to fulfill promises they cannot see. Not someday, not tomorrow, but right now. And that number is being extended to you. In this holy time, I want you to do the following. Write these 3 words in the comment section. Now I take a step. No. Why? Because you anchor it when you announce it. You react to the word, not simply hear it. You declare it rather than just nodding in silence. In addition to attesting to others, typing those words serves as a reminder to yourself that you are moving forward without delay and toward your destiny. The act of those 3 words is prophetic. In the sand, they are a line. As you do, keep this in mind. Fear no longer dictates my steps. Sight no longer rules me. Faith does. You won't only open your own way by obeying. Your bravery will inspire others to discover their own. Similar like flames jumping from one burner to another. Your leap of faith will start a domino effect. You are put to the test for more than just yourself. Every soul that is tied to you puts you to the test. Selected 1. Do not squander this exam. Type Amen to embrace the angel's blessings. Show your support by giving super thanks up to $20. They're asking for trust. Heaven is waiting for your response, and faith is being assessed. Select 1 and pay careful attention. Faith is more than a passing fad. It is a choice etched into your soul. I step now, for example, is not a blank text entry. That proclamation is an act of war against hesitancy, fear, and uncertainty. And it will go down in history as one of the people who dared to move when everything around them cried out, wait. Know this very well. There is power in every word you say. When you put what you say on paper, heaven and earth react to it. This prophetic gesture is significant because you provide your spirit with a point of reference, a signpost that reads, "On this day, at this moment, I broke delay." It has nothing to do with social media. In your trip, it is about placing a stone of remembering. Don't take this lightly then. Type it, believe it, say it, and let your heart to soar in tandem with your admission. Because miracles happen when faith and action come together. You need to comprehend this now. Chosen one, your master is not money. It was never intended to occupy your life's throne. It is a resource put in your hands to help destiny blossom. It is a tool and a servant. You are called to a higher viewpoint, yet too many people are shackled by the joy of accumulating or the dread of losing it. Although it is a component of your task, wealth is not who you are. Think of money as a hammer in a builder's hand. By alone, a hammer is not a home. It can't provide you with refuge. It can't keep your kids safe. It is unable to convey a legacy tale. But when a builder grasps it and applies it in accordance with his or her vision, doors open, walls rise, and a home is born. The same is true with money. It is a purposeless raw substance begging for guidance. It sits there doing nothing, but it creates futures in the hands of a selected one. Another picture is a river that flows over the landscape, creating untamed and catastrophic courses when left unchecked. However, when used for irrigation, it makes arid lands productive. The same is true with money. If unfocused, it may lead to disaster. When wisely guided, it expands life and irrigates the seeds of hope. Once, there was a chosen one who was afraid of money. They thought they would become corrupted by affluence. They pushed it aside as a result. They toiled for years because they believed that scarcity was a sign of sanctity. However, they eventually came to the realization that terror had taken away their power. They had nothing to offer. Therefore, they were unable to assist the impoverished. Their hands were constantly empty. Thus, they were unable to construct. Everything changed for them when they began to see money as a tool rather than a danger. Their riches turned into rivers that built schools, fed people, and brought hope where despair had fallen. Unchosen one. According to Luke 16, verse 10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. Your financial management is a test. The quantity is irrelevant. It has to do with how your heart is positioned. Heaven will acknowledge your devoted and purposeful handling of little resources and give you more. Greater doors will stay locked. However, if you squander or fear what you now have, consider it this way. Swords are not worshipped by soldiers. Although he appreciates it, sharpens it, and utilizes it in combat, his allegiance is to the commander rather than the sword. Similarly, money has to be managed and honed. However, you continue to be faithful to God, the source of all things. Examine more closely. Why is money such a source of fear? So they take it for authority. However, real power is never found in money. The hand that controls them has the real power. Rather than conquering the tool, the opponent wants you to submit to it. For this reason, a lot of people are slaves to debt, greed, or Konak. However, the person you selected is being made aware of authority. Pursuing wealth is not the purpose of your quest. When wealth flows, it's about accepting responsibility. It's for your task, not for your pride. Luxuriance is never the only thing that drives kingdom builders. Their vision is what motivates them. They are aware that money can publish the message, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and open doors that prayer cannot. Take a moment to think. Have you idealized resources, allowing them to determine your value? Or have you shied away from them out of fear that they might corrupt you? Chains exist at both extremes. It is required of you to maintain equilibrium. Having money does not define you or make you an adversary. You may use it as a tool. Its effectiveness also relies on the hands that use it, just like any other instrument. Consider an artisan who receives gold. It might be turned into an idol that deceives future generations. It may be forged by another into a crown fit for a real monarch. The substance is same. Its worth is determined by its function. Selected 1. You're entering a time when you need to see things clearly. You have to choose now how you will handle the money that is on the way. You will bury it in the earth out of fear. You will spend it on vanity out of greed. However, having a vision will help you plant it, grow it, and then release it for lasting effect. And keep this fact in mind. When your hands are open, you will never be in need. Rivers get resources, not ponds. Money never runs out when it fulfills its purpose. Heaven has faith in things that don't hold on too hard. Thus, become more mature. Take the tool and use it wisely. Don't let money control you. Let it work for you. Being able to master what others are able to master is part of your calling. To guide what is guided by others. Because resources will not be squandered in your hands. They will become part of the heritage. Selected 1. Allow me to address your heart directly. You're being welcomed into a flow where money flows through you like water rather than being something to hold on to. A trickle is not what you were made to hold. You were made to let a river flow. And since their supply is limitless, rivers don't worry about drying out. Imagine rain pouring on a dry planet. Every drip melts into the ground and is hidden from view. Green sprouts, however, quickly broke through the gaps. What seemed to be lost turned out to be life. Similarly, what is in your hand does not disappear when you let it go. It changes. It multiplies in ways you can't even comprehend, sprouts roots, and produces fruit. Once upon a time, a chosen one had difficulty giving. Fear murmured each time they felt the prod. It will be less if you let it go. They followed fear rather than faith for years. They chose to trust with shaking hands one day. Even if the provision flow seemed like a trickle. They donated because they loved, not because they were under duress. They prayed for years to see doors open, and soon they did. According to what is said in the second epistle to the Corinthians, the act of release turned into the key that opened the overflow. Verse 6 of chapter 9. Whoever uses sparingly will use sparingly in return. Additionally, those who give liberally will likewise get richly. Selected 1. Take note of the words, it is stitching and harvesting. No farmer distributes seed with no expectation of compensation. He has faith in the season, the rain, and the land. His life endures even after the seed leaves his palm. It returns multiplied. This is the release's mystery. Although it seems like a loss, the kingdom always gains. I have to speak from the heart now. If this message has given you new life, I encourage you to reply as a free act of love, not as a duty or a transaction, if it has bolstered your soul. Subscribe, like, and share, in order for these messages to keep reaching truth-hungry souls. Additionally, you may give if you are moved to delve deeper and join the very river that spreads this message. Consider it this way. Donating is like putting a stone into a lighthouse's foundation. During rough seas, that lighthouse beams, securely directing mariners to land. Even though your stone may seem modest, the construction is not complete without it. Every donation, no matter how big or little, contributes to creating something that will last beyond your lifetime and save people you may never encounter. Or think of your gift as a spark that falls into a piece of dry wood. The spark seems weak and unimportant when it is alone, but when it is joined by others, it develops into a fire that illuminates the dark, warms the cold, and extends beyond the horizon. Your seed does just that. It sets out an unmistakable blaze. Hear me out. This has nothing to do with pressure. It is not about obtaining favors or purchasing blessings. The love of God is free. His hand is not for sale, and his vows are unwavering. I'm talking about partnership. Aligning oneself with a river of purpose is the key. Choose to let what comes to you to pass through you. Some of you will provide a little amount. It will be really valuable. Some of you will contribute more, and it will be quite significant. However, the heart is the real metric, not size. Because a widow's heart was in it, her currency was worth more than a wealthy man's riches. The obedience and affection that go into it are more important than the number. Selected 1. I tell you this because I am aware that each seed you plant contributes to a larger narrative. Every act of kindness opens a new chapter in the life of another person. Heaven will one day reveal you what your gift did, even if you may never see the faces. Therefore, accept this offer as a helping hand, not as a must. You're at liberty. You are cherished. You are not denied anything. Let your yes be your yes if you decide not to donate, yet your heart aches and you feel compelled to participate. The dirt has poured into you, so into it. As if you were dropping a pebble into a still pond. Click. Someone drowning in quiet could be reached by your ripple. As a lantern is handed from hand to hand, spread this word. You may never go within yourself if you carry light into corners. To stay like a tree planted next to a running stream, subscribe. Continually in contact, always fed by clean water. And if your soul is moved, give as if you were putting oil in a lamp to keep the light burning brightly, rather than as a duty. Keep this last image in mind. When a candle ignites another flame, nothing is lost. Rather, the light in the room increases. Likewise, you will never be diminished by your release. All it will do is make the light bigger. Selected one, hear this clearly. Your acts are prophetic in addition to being sensible. You are making a statement in the invisible world when you let go of what you own and when you take actions that seem dangerous. Obedience, money, and time all become more than just an act. It turns into a signpost that both heaven and hell can see. I trust the Lord, and I am his property. For this reason, your generosity, spending, and bravery cannot be compared to the way the world does things. The world spends money to buy things. The selected one invests to validate fate. Fearing tomorrow, the globe hoards. Since they are aware of who will hold tomorrow, the selected one lets go. Imagine a trumpet blast before to combat. The sound itself vibrates the environment but does not penetrate armor. It brings the troops together. The adversary is frightened. Similarly, your prophetic actions may seem little in the physical world, yet they are like trumpets in the spirit. Another picture, a flag that has been placed on a battlefield. Although the cloth itself is not the triumph, its raising identifies the rightful owner of the land. That flag symbolizes your act of release, your unafraid flow. You mark fresh territory for the kingdom every time you obey. A selected individual formerly endured years of famine. Each paycheck was measured. If you spend, you'll run out. Fear murmured continually, questioning every spending. Yet one day, they discovered the secret of prophetic release. They decided to pretend that there was a limitless supply in paradise. When it didn't make sense, they gave. When it seemed silly to others, they sowed. It seemed careless. However, it was really a heavenly proclamation. Provision soon arrived in unexpected forms. Bills were self-paying. Prior to being uttered, needs were satisfied. The chosen one learned that the money of paradise is obedience. The Lord Almighty and chosen one announces, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine," as the prophet Haggai said in chapter 2, verse 8. You have to see this clearly. You do not own every coin in your possession. He owns it. You're only giving it back to its rightful owner when you release it for his use. Additionally, everything you put in his hands constantly comes back to you tenfold, since he is not a debtor. However, something more profound takes place than multiplication. Chains are broken by you. The grip of scarcity is released. It silences fear. Your heart discovers that real riches is determined by what you dare to give up rather than by what you maintain. Take a moment to think. How many times have you been urged to take a risk, yet been held back by fear? How often have you opted for safety over trust? In retrospect, how many times did you see that the price of safety was higher than the price of obedience? This is the change that is now taking place inside you. No more waiting. Stop clutching. A new type of freedom is defining you. The ability to act fearlessly. The magnitude of what you disclose is not what prophetic deeds are about. The heart behind them is what they are about. More people go to paradise when a youngster joyfully gives 1 cent than when a monarch proudly pours forth riches. The weight of obedience is more important than the weight of the offering. For this reason, chosen one, I implore you to take a courageous action. Avoid overanalyzing. Avoid doing endless calculations. Allow your release to resemble an arrow that is sent into the night. Heaven leads the objective, even if you can't see it. Additionally, it will land precisely where it was intended to. I want you to mark this occasion with a number to make it official. Write 414 in the comments section. Why 414? Since Jesus mentioned living water that never runs dry in John 4 verse 14, it serves as a prophetic reminder of that passage. When you type 414, you are declaring, I will flow. I will not run dry. My provision is a river, not a puddle. You are testifying that your release is not loss. It is connection to the endless spring. Chosen one, let that number be your trumpet, your flag, your act of remembrance. When you see it, you will recall this moment when you broke free from fear. Others will see it and be inspired to declare the same. And heaven itself will record it as a testimony of your obedience. Do not underestimate what looks like a small step, a number typed, a coin given, a risk taken. All of these echo louder than you realize. In the natural, they may seem tiny. In the spirit, they shake mountains. You are not just living an ordinary life. You are walking as a sign, our wonder, a living prophecy. And every step you take sends ripples into eternity. So write it, declare it, live it. Your flow will never stop. Chosen one, there is a chain that has followed humanity for generations. It whispers lack. It shouts insufficiency. It convinces hearts that there will never be enough. This chain is poverty's grip. But today I tell you that grip is being broken from your life. Poverty is more than empty pockets. It is a mindset, a spirit, a constant shadow that makes you afraid of tomorrow. It makes you measure every step by scarcity, not by vision. It blinds you to opportunities, poisons you with comparison, and crushes your hope. But you were never meant to live bowed under that weight. You were chosen to stand tall, to walk in freedom, to live as a testimony of abundance. Imagine a bird with wings strong enough to soar across continents, yet bound to the ground by a thin rope around its ankle. The rope itself is weak, easily broken, but the bird has been trained to believe it cannot escape. That is how poverty operates, not by true strength, but by deception. It convinces mighty people to live small lives. Another image, a city surrounded by high walls. Inside, the people believe they are trapped, that escape is impossible. But if they walk to the edge and touch the wall, they would realize it is only painted canvas, not stone. Poverty is a painted wall, intimidating at a distance, powerless up close. There was once a chosen one who lived in a home where money was always short. Every conversation around the dinner table carried the weight of unpaid bills. Dreams were silenced with the phrase, "We can't afford that." For years, they carried that same mindset into adulthood. They made choices from fear, not faith. But one day, the truth broke through. Their worth was not measured by their bank account. They dared to see themselves as God saw them, full of potential, carrying destiny, worthy of abundance. From that moment, everything shifted, opportunities came, doors opened, and even when challenges arose, they no longer bowed to the lie of lack. The grip had been broken. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 37, verse 25. I was young, and now I am old. Yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. El Chosen One. This verse is not an empty comfort. It is a declaration. The righteous, those aligned with God's will, are not abandoned. Their children do not wander in hunger. Scarcity may shout, but it is silenced by this truth. You are not forsaken, and you never will be. But understand this, breaking poverty's grip does not mean money falls from the sky without effort. It means your mindset shifts. You begin to see opportunity where others see obstacles. You begin to act boldly instead of shrinking back. You begin to value what is in your hand instead of despising it. Poverty is broken when faith steps in, when gratitude replaces complaint, when boldness replaces fear. Think of the Israelites leaving Egypt. They had been slaves for generations, living with nothing of their own. Yet when God delivered them, they walked out carrying the wealth of Egypt in their hands. That is a picture of you. Poverty may have marked your past, but it will not define your future. You will walk out carrying abundance because the Lord delights in freeing his people completely, not just from chains of oppression, but from a mentality of lack. Pause and consider what lies has poverty spoken to you. You'll never get ahead. People like you never prosper. You'll always be in debt. These are the painted walls, the thin ropes. The moment you stop believing them, they lose their power. Chosen one, you are stepping into a new chapter. You will still work. You will still steward, but you will no longer labor under fear. You will no longer hoard out of panic. You will no longer shrink back when opportunity knocks. The curse is broken. The shadow is lifted. This does not mean you will never face challenges, but it does mean you will face them differently. You will not tremble at empty accounts. You will speak life over them. You will not envy others' abundance. You will celebrate it, knowing your own river is flowing. You will not say, I can't. You will ask, how will God provide? Chosen one, the grip is broken. Stand tall. Walk free. The painted walls are falling. The thin ropes are snapping, and your wings are ready to rise. Chosen one, there is a truth hidden in plain sight. Every transaction you make in obedience is more than an exchange of value. It is a divine moment. When you release what is in your hand, heaven records it, and heaven responds. You may see money leaving your account, time leaving your schedule, or energy leaving your body. But in the spirit, something greater is unfolding. This is what I call divine transactions. They are not like human business where loss and profit are measured in numbers alone. Divine transactions move in two realms, the seen and the unseen. What you release on earth becomes multiplied in heaven's storehouses, and what is multiplied there finds its way back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Imagine a farmer placing seeds into the soil to an untrained eye. It looks foolish. He is burying food, putting precious resources into the dirt. But the farmer knows the soil is not death. It is transformation. The seed will return as stalks, as grain, as harvest enough to feed many. So is with your obedience. What looks like loss is simply the beginning of multiplication. Another picture. Think of trading one candle for the fire of a furnace. You let go of the small flame in your hand, and in return you step into a room ablaze with heat and light. That is the nature of divine exchange. You surrender the little you hold, and God releases a greater measure you could never create on your own. There was once a chosen one who gave their last portion of savings to help a struggling family. It made no sense at the time. They themselves had bills and uncertainties, but they felt the unmistakable nudge of the Spirit. Days later, a door opened, a job offer beyond anything they had expected, one that secured not only their needs, but also the needs of their household. What looked like recklessness was in fact a divine transaction. They released earthly seed, and heaven released a harvest. The ancient words recorded in the book of Malachi 3:10 still echo today. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. In Chosen One, notice the boldness of this passage. God himself says, test me. There are few places in Scripture where heaven invites such direct challenge. Why? Because divine transactions are guaranteed. The storehouses of heaven are vast. And when you act in obedience, those storehouses are stirred. This is why the world cannot understand your choices. They measure only in numbers, but you measure in faith. They ask, why would you give when you have so little? You answer, because I trust the one who owns it all. They mock what looks like loss, but soon they witness your return multiplied in ways they cannot explain. Think of Jacob laying his head on a stone in the wilderness. Empty and uncertain, he had nothing but the clothes on his back. Yet that night he saw a ladder stretching into heaven, angels ascending and descending. The next morning he declared, surely the Lord is in this place. The appearance of nothingness was really the result of a heavenly transaction. From that time of blessing, supply, and covenant, his life changed. Take a moment to think. How many times have you suppressed your emotions because you thought letting go would leave you feeling empty? And how many times did you subsequently discover that nothing multiplied at all from what you held with your hand closed. Although the closed hand may shield its contents, nothing fresh may enter it. For heavenly trade, only the open hand is prepared. Selected 1. The systems of mankind in heaven are not the same. The world advises you to put money aside until you feel secure. Heaven advises you to let go and have faith in God's limitless provision. Generosity is subtracted according to what the world teaches. Heaven makes it clear that giving multiplies. So, keep this fact with you wherever you go. Every release, sacrifice, act of obedience, and gift is more than a fleeting moment. It's an eternal transaction. Heaven never rejects faith, even if you may not always see the return right away. What you let go of today will come back to you tomorrow as favor, opportunity, provision, and open doors that no man can close. Selected 1. You get your share of divine dealings. Don't be afraid of the conversation. Even if the seed may disappear from your view, your future will always be there. You must be aware of this, chosen one. The forces of poverty are unnerved by your mere existence. Your soul brings richness before your hands even touch it. So when you enter the room, scarcity trembles. When faith enters, fear cannot endure and darkness cannot live with your light. Delays, poverty, and inadequacy, they are more than simply circumstances. They're spirits that thrive on consensus. Their hold on you starts to loosen the instant you disagree with them. When you go ahead, you encounter opposition because of this. It has nothing to do with your weakness. It's because you pose a threat. Consider a lion walking into a jackal pasture. The jackals disperse. Just because the lion has shown up, not means it has attacked. That lion is you. The opponent flees before you even raise your hand when you choose to walk fearlessly, spin freely under God's guidance, and behave fearlessly. One more image. Imagine a fire coming toward dry bushes. Long before the brush is completely consumed by the flame, it crackles, shakes, and gives way. That's how your faith is reacted to by lack. It cannot stay because it feels what is about to happen. Once upon a time, a chosen one lived surrounded by terrified whispers. Each time they attempted to get up, the voices said, "You will fail. You will lose everything." Nevertheless, they decided to disregard the chorus and go out. Fear became quieter with every stride. The voices became weaker with each act of trust until they were no more. That selected one now serves as evidence that fear is only powerful when it is nourished. It kills when it starves. The letter of James reveals what the Bible says. Verse 7 of chapter 4. Then give yourself to God. The devil will run away from you if you resist him. Selected one. Take note of this. The adversary doesn't just retreat. He runs away. He flees. He is powerless against someone who is in harmony with heaven. Warfare is your obedience, your bravery, and your unwillingness to give in to fear. Lack retreats as a result. This is the reason why the fight seems so intense just before a breakthrough. When darkness knows it is going to lose, it always opposes the most fiercely. Your feelings of pressure are not evidence of failure. It is an indication that triumph is near. Take a moment to reflect. How often did you doubt your ability to weather the storm? But here you are. You were stronger, not weaker, after every combat. You were prepared for the next level of power by each conflict. Scarcity has attempted to persuade you that it would always exist. However, your mere existence indicates otherwise. Because you are evidence that poverty cannot contain you, you scare it. Selected one. Now is your time to answer. Not only with contemplation, but with affirmation. Write these words in the comments section. Fear bows. Now how and why? Because you reinforce it when you express it. They are more than just letters. In your hands, they are a weapon. They proclaim to your own spirit that fear has been overthrown and puncture the enemy's falsehoods. By entering it, you concur with the judgment of heaven. Here, fear has no power. Every pronouncement is amplified, I assure you. People see it when you write it. Your words give them courage. They also oppose. A series of events starts. An army of chosen ones builds as one proclamation leads to another. Fear is silenced by each speech. Darkness is pushed back with each stride. Thus, take this stance. Enter it. Have faith. Live it. Now fear bows. Additionally, keep in mind that lions disperse before jackals as you go. Before fire, the brush trembles. And the chosen one, who is aware of their identity, chases scarcity away. Let me reveal the full extent of my proclamation, chosen one. Fear bows as you write. You are now creating a spiritual rule over your life in addition to dealing with your existing circumstances. Fear has always attempted to pass for common sense, wisdom, or prudence. In actuality, however, fear is a lie. It restricts you, obstructs your view, and persuades you that safety comes first. However, a purposeless safety is merely another jail. Saying the phrases is like letting yourself out of the cage. Your soul is being reminded that you are not owned by fear. You are instilling in your mind that obeying is more important than hesitancy. You are demonstrating to the invisible world that you have more power than any hint of evil. Remember that fear does not just go away. When you resist, it bends. When you act, it bends. When you choose trust over delay, it bows. Your remarks are important because of this. They're not just noises. They are tools that can change the course of your life. Selected 1. Hear me out. A stagnant pond is not what you were intended to be. A living river is what you were meant to be. Ponds don't hold. Rivers run. Ponds ultimately decompose. Life comes from rivers. The water itself does not make a difference. The movement contains it, and you're not destined to clutch or hoard. Releasing and revitalizing everything around you is your destiny. Consider how a river provides nourishment. It doesn't end with a single settlement or farm. It spreads green wherever it goes, bringing pleasure with it. It would become a swamp and serve as a breeding ground for mosquitoes rather than supporting life if it attempted to save its water. Selected 1. You are asked to flow for this reason. You're contributing. You're letting go. Investing is about more than simply money. It's about maintaining the freshness of your existence. One more image. A tree that water streams planted. It doesn't hold on to every drop of rain with fervor. Rather, it distributes. It expands. It also drops fruit for others to consume when it's in season. The tree doesn't grumble. My produce is being taken by them. Since there will be more rain, it just has faith in the cycle. There will be further growth. There will be more fruit. That's your life. Flow over your fear when you want to. A chosen one once made the decision to live like a reservoir. They amassed every resource, blessing, and currency, yet they never let it transcend themselves. It seemed sensible at first. They'd had enough, but happiness waned gradually. Relationships become superficial. Their spirit dried out. One day, despite their growing money account, they came to the realization that the things they clung to were choking them. The dryness went away, and their souls came back to life when they decided to stop helping others, stitching into a purpose, and giving freely. What you're studying now, they found. Life is flowing. It is not being held. A person who is generous will thrive. According to Proverbs 11, verse 25. The person who revitalizes others will also be revitalized. This is a law from God. You are renewed when you replenish others. You receive when you relinquish. You develop when you let go. Since the cycle is woven into the very fabric of existence, it cannot be broken. I thus ask you to join this flow, selected 1. Let this message continue to resonate with you if it has sparked your heart and lifted your spirits. As if you were sowing a seed that would grow much beyond your garden, not out of habit. Give it out as if you were lighting a lamp in the night to help the darkness wane. Subscribe as if you were securing your place next to a river, guaranteeing that you would never run out of water, rather than as a simple click. And if your heart is moved more, give as if you were filling a lamp with oil, so that the light never goes out and many more might find their way home, rather than because you have to. Consider it this way. A lighthouse's illumination is the result of many bricks and stones being placed together, not a single beam. No matter how big or tiny our contribution is, it becomes one of those stones. Together, they create something that calls out to ships adrift in the storm and shines far beyond the coast. No matter how much you donate, it goes toward that lighthouse. The light is dimmer without it. The light is stronger with it. Or picture a garden. An whole community is suddenly fed by the harvest when one person plants a single seed, another waters it, and yet another cares for the soil. When you give alone, that's what occurs. Even while your seed can seem little, when combined with others, it produces a harvest that outlasts you. Let me be quite clear. Choose one. Pressure is never the issue here. Fear is never the issue. Whether you donate or not, you are entitled to God's promises. He has an unwavering love. Giving, on the other hand, is your invitation to join his flow. You have the option to live like a river rather than a pond. And you become a part of something far bigger than yourself when you make that decision. Therefore, today, let your actions be willing, attractive, and free. As if you were stitching seeds. As if you were passing fire, share. As if you were anchoring yourself by endless waves, subscribe. Give as if you were putting oil on the eternal fire. Every action is optional, but they all have everlasting weight. Additionally, keep in mind that nothing is lost when one candle illuminates another, but the light in the room becomes brighter. A river that irrigates the fields runs more forcefully rather than drying up. A fruit-dropping tree that gets higher every season instead of becoming smaller. You are that river, that tree, and that candle. You will never be diminished by your liberation. All it will do is make the light bigger, boost the harvest, and fortify the flow. Selected one, explore this reality in further detail. Your life's provision is not quantified by human standards. Heaven's storehouses serve as a gauge. Furthermore, the storehouses are never empty. You are entering a world in which God's plenty, not his scarcity, will fulfill your needs. Many people act as if there aren't enough riches in paradise. They consider market fluctuations, earnings, and savings. However, you are asked to view in a new way. You are not dependent on men's economics. You are in harmony with God's economy. Additionally, there is neither a recession nor inflation in his economy. His supply is as limitless as the sea, sand, grains, and the stars above. Picture yourself holding a cup in front of an ocean. The water in your cup will never run out, even if you dip it repeatedly. Heaven's storehouse is like that. It stays full whether you draw from it every day, every hour, or indefinitely. You don't have to be afraid because of this. It is impossible to empty the source without it. One more picture. In the woods, consider the manna. The Israelites never went hungry because they collected every morning and had nothing to stockpile. New provisions appeared with every daybreak. Fearing the supply of tomorrow, some attempted to stockpile. The lesson, however, was obvious. What they kept ruined. Don't trust the hoarded gift. Trust the giver. That's how heavenly providence moves. Even if you may not see tomorrow's bread today, it will exist when the time comes. A chosen one who lived paycheck to paycheck previously existed, constantly worried about running out. Each month was a struggle. Every purchase carries some risk. Then one day, they made the decision to put God's promises to the test. They opened their hand rather than tightening their grip. They talked of trust rather than fear. Opportunities came slowly, first tiny, then bigger. It went from being just enough to being more than enough. The change was not in quantity, but in attitude, from fear to confidence, from scarcity to plenty. The old words found in verse 19 of chapter 4 of the letter to the Philippians. My God will provide for all of your requirements based on the abundance of his glory in Christ Jesus if you bear everlasting weight. Selected one. Seize this promise. Not all needs. Not in accordance with the boundaries of your salary. Not in accordance with your necessities on occasion, but in accordance with his splendor. Can you tell the difference? Your strength does not determine your supply. It is based on his plenty. The virtuous may live openly because of this. They are able to donate. They are able to let go. Knowing that the source is safe allows them to act with trust. A youngster asks their father for food without fear. They don't question if there will be sufficient. They have faith in the provider's love and strength. That must be the case with you. Think for a moment. Where have you been living as if paradise were impoverished? In what instances have you allowed your fear of scarcity to prevent you from pursuing your goals? Because your perspective on provision influences how you live, these questions are important. You will hide, hoard, and shrink if you think there will never be enough. However, you will act bravely, give freely, and live completely if you trust in the richness of heaven. Consider Elijah in the midst of the famine. All a widow had was a little amount of oil and a handful of flour. Before she and her son passed away, she got ready to cook their last lunch together. However, the oil never ran empty and the container never emptied when she chose to release it in obedience. When you put your reliance in God's provision, that is how your life looks. What seems to be the last handful becomes the start of an endless supply. Select one. Your narrative is changing. From just enough to more than enough, you are progressing. From worry of the future to delight in the now. From everyday anxiety to everyday trust. Recessions and shortages may make the planet shudder. However, you will serve as a witness. Measureless provision is real, because the storehouse in heaven never shuts. Walk in this truth and keep your hands open. Imagine yourself as a child of the King, drawing freely from an infinite supply of wealth, rather than as a beggar looking for crumbs. You no longer have to worry about provision. You can be sure of it. Selected one. Allow this to sink deeply within you. Your narrative of need is over. You now operate under a new banner, one painted copiously, grace and a plenty of resources. Every day that lies ahead has its own style, its own oil, and its own produce. Choosing one, you won't run out. You have experienced the grasp of shortage, traversed the valley of delay, and seen the course of divine transactions. Heaven urges you to mark your faith with a prophetic number at this pivotal moment. This is neither a pointless ritual nor superstition. It is an affirmation and an indication that you are lining up with God's promise of plenty. Scripture has traditionally used numbers to convey meaning. They're not arbitrary. They are emblems of prophecy. After 7 marches, Jericho's walls collapsed. Jesus provided 2 fish and 5 loaves to the crowd. The gospel was spread around the globe by 12 disciples. Every number represented a covenant moment, a testament recorded in time. You too have been asked to commemorate this time boldly and without hesitation, because you anchor your spirit in truth when you make a declaration with your words and deeds. Before conflict, picture a soldier engraving his name onto a stone. Although it serves as a reminder, such inscription does not win the battle. I was present. I got up. I decided to be brave. Similarly, there is no magic in your prophetic number. It's memory. Here, I chose to flow with heaven's abundance of note, reads the stone of recollection. Another image shows a tourist lowering a flag atop a mountain. The flag signifies the triumph, the climb, and the testimony, but it does not itself retain the mountain. People know someone made it to the top when they saw it. That flag represents your proclamation. It communicates to the planet, heavens, and even your own spirit that you have attained a new level of trust. Every time a call for declaration was made, a selected one used to hesitate. But eventually, their quiet turned into agreement with terror, even though they reminded themselves, it's just words. It doesn't matter. With shaking fingers, they ventured to break the stillness one day. Something changed within when they inputted number. The act of trust was more important than the actual numbers. The choice to match internal beliefs with external behavior. The old words in Romans 10 verse 10 still ring true today, because it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your lips that you confess your faith and are saved. That one act of bravery shattered the bonds that years of quiet had only made tighter. Finish the selected one. It matters what you say. What you say matters. What you think is sealed by what you express. Faith doesn't keep quiet. It talks. It takes action. It signifies the occasion. I thus encourage you to write the number 828 in the comment section. Why 828? Because it contains the echo of verse 28 of Romans 8. Generations have been calmed by this pledge, and we are aware that God always acts in the best interests of those who love Him and have been called in accordance with His plan. By typing 828, you are announcing that the one who called you, your chosen one, is weaving all the details of your life, past suffering, current hardship, and unknown future, into something positive. This has nothing to do with copying numbers on a screen. It has to do with deciding to agree with heaven. That number will serve as a constant reminder to you that nothing is wasted, that even the shattered parts are being molded into something beautiful. It will serve as a reminder that you are not forgotten, abandoned, or undervalued. You have been selected, and the purpose of writing your narrative is to get you fame. Don't undervalue this deed. You are testifying for everyone that will see it when you announce 828, not just for yourself. Your announcement could be the flame that rekindles their optimism even if you never get to meet them. A seemingly little gesture turns out to be a spiritual trumpet blow. Take a moment to visualize this. A big auditorium crowded with selected people from all across the world. As a sign of their faith, each person raised a number. Distinct tales, but a same message. We have faith in him. Your statement is not unique. It joins a chorus, a movement, and an unstoppable river of trust. Selected one. This is your chance. You've heard. You have faith. You make a declaration now. Allow the number to be inscribed on your path as evidence that you believe God will work everything out for the best. Boldly type it. Put your confidence in it. Allow heaven to document it so that your soul will never forget it. Selected one. Know this very well. You are not repeating empty numbers when you type 828. You are using Romans 8:28's covenant as an anchor for your spirit. You are proclaiming that chaos cannot prevail, that every obstacle is being overcome, and that God's flawless, predetermined plan is being woven throughout your whole existence. It is not enough to accumulate benefits for yourself on the path of your vocation. You are always intended to be a conduit that transmits life wherever it flows, not a hoarding vessel. Being only a container would restrict what heaven may do through you. You are meant to be a fountain, a never-ending stream that rehydrates others. Imagine a clay container that is overflowing. It seems useful at first, but the water within eventually becomes stale. Because it retains without releasing, the jar's value is restricted. Now, visualize a mountain spring. Rivers, lakes, valleys, and communities are nourished by the clear and vibrant waters that flow out of it. The spring source is deep and timeless, so it never worries about running out. You're not a jar of clay. That spring is you. One more picture. Electricity moving via cables. The circuit fails, and the home becomes dark if the wire opposes or obstructs the flow. However, light floods every space when the wire permits the current to go through. Time, money, gifts, and abilities are like electricity. The flow stops if they are hoarded. You may spread light by channeling them. Once, a chosen one survived because they thought they were too little to have an impact. They held everything close because they believed that what I have is not enough to matter. Believed that their contribution was negligible. However, they ventured to release one day. They contributed, shared, and served in little amounts. To their amazement, that little amount grew in other people's lives and produced much more fruit than they could see. They discovered the reality. It never matters how much you possess to be a channel. It all comes down to whether you let paradise pass through you. In chapter 58 of the book of Isaiah, God's voice thundered. Verse 11, you will always be led by the Lord. In a place baked by the sun, He will meet your wants and fortify your body. You will resemble a garden that receives regular watering, or a spring whose waters never run dry. Selected one. This is your share. A spring with unfailing water. A drought-tolerant garden that thrives. Your supply never runs out, even if the world does. Why? Because the source is endless and you are part of it. Take a minute to think. How often have you held back because you felt you didn't have enough to contribute? How often have you disregarded your own impact, ignoring the fact that harvests are formed of seeds and rivers are built of droplets? It doesn't matter what you have, the adversary says. You can seal it then. Heaven, however, asserts that every drop matters. Every seed counts. Each release multiplies. Consider the lad who gave 2 fish and 5 loaves. It was absurd in human terms, hardly enough for one household. However, It was more than plenty for thousands in Yazoo's hence. There was no vessel in the boy. He was a conduit. Many people were nourished by what he left in his hand. A seemingly little thing turned into a flood of sustenance. You stop asking when you're a channel. What happens if I start declaring and run out? What if I go overboard? It indicates that you are flowing instead than clinging. It implies that you live with your hands open, understanding that each release serves as a link between the wealth of heaven and the needs of earth. Think of an arid hamlet where people are carrying buckets to a riverbed that is fractured. They wait for rain every day, but the heavens are still closed. Abruptly, a spring emerges from the rock. It starts off little before gushing water all over the place. Everything changes that spring. Crops develop. Kids chuckle. Families prosper. When you let yourself be selected as a channel, that spring is you. From vessel to channel, from retaining to flowing, from scarcity to plenty. This is the change that heaven is bringing about. You're not just supposed to hold light. It is intended for you to discharge it into shadowy areas. Blessings are not your only purpose. They're supposed to be distributed by you. The mystery is right here. You get more full the more you flow. Due to its connection to the mountain, the spring is not afraid of drying up. Because the current is limitless, the wire is not afraid about losing power. Because it is supported by the subterranean river, the garden is not afraid about drought. That's the case with your selected one. Enter this reality with courage. A stagnant vessel is not you. A live channel is you. Allow everything comes to you to pass through you as well. Because this source never ends, you will discover that you never run out of energy. Selected one. Hear this clearly. Money is not inherently bad. It doesn't tarnish your spirit or bind you to your fate. Yes, it corrupts when in the wrong hands, but becomes a crown when in the right hands. The issue is not with gold or silver. Heaven has set you aside, and you are being taught to wear riches as glory rather than as a master. That is the heart that clings to them. Imagine a crown perched on a monarch's head. The gold doesn't govern by itself. It is only an authority sign. The strength of the kingdom is determined by the king's justice and wisdom. Similarly, having money does not guarantee that it will control you. It is intended to give your voice more clout and to bear witness to God's favor, demonstrating that his people are not abandoned. One more picture, a flame blazing at night. The flame may either guide or burn. Fire is neutral in and of itself. Its value is determined by its usage. The same is true of riches. Some people's greed consumes everything around them. However, in the hands of the chosen one, it illuminates the road, drives out darkness, and warms the cold. One of the chosen ones once grew up thinking that money was filthy. A diversion from holiness is a curry. They often apologized for their lack of necessities and lived with little. When the chance came, they shrank. However, their viewpoint changed when the Spirit told them one day, "Gold is not sin. It is mine. It is meant to be glory in your hands." Instead of apologizing for their riches, they started using their resources and vision to steward it. They created, donated, raised, and cured. They learned that, in their hands, wealth was a weapon rather than an adversary. In Deuteronomy 8 verse 18, the prophet says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant which he swore to your ancestors as it is today." Don't ignore this fact, chosen one. Being wealthy is not a coincidence. God gave you the capacity to make it as a gift, a covenantal symbol, and a reminder that you are walking in the promises made to you long before you were ever born. It's not only for your comfort when you succeed. It is evidence that you embody his word. Think carefully. How often has desiring more made you feel bad? How many times have you stifled aspirations that were too lofty? However, ambition is not pride when it is given to God. Stewardship is what it is.